Welcome back, everyone. This is Radio Free Market, and I am your host, Michael McKay, and with me, Dr. Thomas Woods. And Tom, we were just talking about the code words that tend to try to stop the conversation. And there are these two words that are the most toxic of the code words on this topic of nullification: slavery and racism. Would you respond to those, please?
Sure. First of all, I strongly urge people to watch this Interview with a Zombie because it answers a lot of this. So I urge people as strongly as I possibly can to go to statenullification.com, where there are a lot of resources on this, but also my video Interview with a Zombie, because that is exactly what the zombie interviewer is throwing out of these words. Slavery, nullification was never used on behalf of slavery. It was, in fact, used against slavery. It was used by northern states that objected to the fugitive slave laws that required them to return runaway slaves, and they believed that there were unconstitutional aspects of these laws, that they did not like the idea that somebody could come into their state, point to some guy and say, hey, that looks like the guy I'm looking for, and then just run away. They said, no, nobody's going to leave our state without a jury trial. None of our state officials are going to cooperate in this. So this is the opposite of slavery and the opposite of racism. The whole point of it was to help blacks.
Right. And so the nullification was always used on behalf of blacks and against the enforcement of slavery.
Right. Now it is true that nullification could be used for bad purposes. That's true, but
Sure.
but not today, I think, because today everybody has the right to vote. School segregation was occurring at a time when blacks, by and large, didn't have the right to vote. And so you had court cases saying, hey, you better desegregate the schools. Nothing happened. It didn't actually happen until the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But now that we've got the right to vote for everybody, it's clear where the threats to our liberties are coming from, and it's not from Santa Fe or Charlotte. It's Washington, D.C. And in particular, we should remember that the greatest foe of states' rights of the whole 20th century was Adolf Hitler, who said repeatedly that he wanted to abolish the powers of the states. He wanted to have the right to impose the Nazi platform on the whole country, regardless of state boundaries. Well, that's the opposite of what we believe.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what are some of the objections to nullification?
Well, the key one that you hear an awful lot is, doesn't this violate the supremacy clause of Article 6, which says that the Constitution and laws in pursuance thereof shall be the supreme law of the land. But notice that it says in laws in pursuance thereof. In other words, the Constitution and constitutional laws shall be the supreme law of the land. It does not say the Constitution and unconstitutional laws shall be the supreme law of the land. So that's what nullifiers are questioning. Is this law pursuant of the Constitution? Is it, in fact, a constitutional law? That's the question. So you can't just say, oh, no, it's got to be imposed on everybody, only if it's constitutional.
So tell us again, in summary, how nullification makes us stronger.
Well, I think the main way that it does is that it helps to keep the federal government at bay. It keeps it locked up. And when the predatory sector, I don't call it the public sector, I call it the predatory sector, when it's locked up, then the private sector, the voluntary sector, the competitive sector, the human sector can flourish more beautifully and unimpeded by the predators in Washington.
Mm-hmm. So I love this quote that you included from Lord Acton: who would be free must themselves strike the blow.
Lord Byron. It's a beautiful statement.
Lord Byron, I'm sorry.
It reminds us that we can't just sit back and hope that somebody's going to put things right for us. We are the somebody. And the instrument we can use are the states that we have allowed to lie dormant for years, but that we can use once again just the way our forebears did.
So I'm going to end the show with a quote from your book that you quote the Connecticut legislature when they voted to nullify the 1807 Embargo Act against the trade with Britain and France, which crippled their economies, resolved that to preserve the Union and support the Constitution of the United States, it becomes the duty of the legislatures of the states in such a crisis of affairs to vigilantly watch over and vigorously maintain the powers not delegated to the United States but reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So thank you, Tom, for being with us today.
Michael, always a pleasure. Thank you.
I greatly appreciate it. And so, folks, visit us on the web at radiofreemarket.com, and please, wherever you are, stand up for freedom. Thank you for listening.